I'm Jay, and this is NFC North Weekly, and today we're going to preview the playoffs. But I got a special guest for you guys. Today I'm here with Matty Walters. Matty, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself and your podcast?
Hi guys, I'm Matty from the Travel Story Society. I'm from the UK, as you can probably tell from my accent. I'm here to just talk about some American football. As Jay said, the Travel Story Society is a podcast, and we basically get people on to talk to us about their favorite travel stories and travel tips. We're also a website at www.travelstorysociety.com, where you can go read our blog and stuff like that. But most importantly for today, I'm an American football fan.
Well, my first question for you is, how big is American football over by you? Because as Americans, I know you guys really like soccer or your football, but as Americans, we only give a shit about soccer every 4 years. So I'm wondering how big American football is by you guys.
So obviously football or soccer is the biggest game, and I'm from the northeast of England, so this is football madness, football mad country. So Sunderland, Newcastle, Middlesbrough, all crazy fan bases. Don't really watch any other sports apart from soccer. But then you have the Wembley games, which I've been to a few, and you just see how much British fans love American football. There's just something about it that draws it to us. It's a bit different than anything else that we have. I suppose you can kind of compare it to rugby, but it's still quite different. And yeah, I think it's got a big enough fan base to really keep going and take off. You can see us getting more and more games in the future, obviously, when COVID-19 is over and you guys can travel over here again to play the games. And if the Jags don't kick off with their new quarterback that they're going to be getting with Trevor Lawrence, we'll be happy to take their franchise and call them the UK Jacks or something like that.
I was actually going to say something like that. I said before COVID, there was a lot of talk about moving a team to London, and because of the owner, Khan, it was probably the Jags. I didn't know if it would ever really work with logistics, and would you spend 8 weeks in the United States and then 8 weeks there? I don't know how they would figure that out because you wouldn't want to fly week to week, but it would be kind of neat to see a team over in London. I just don't know how they logistically would work it out, but they would figure it out.
Yeah, well, some flights are not that much longer. So say you put us in say we're the Jags. So what's that? AFC South, isn't it? Or AFC East. Yeah. Some of the flights to the East Coast just aren't as long as flights across America a lot of the time. So it's like 7 hours.
Okay.
Stuff like that. So I think you could logistically do it. It's just that idea of 8 games in the US and then 8 games in the UK probably works best for us. What I think you do get from a UK-based fan base is the whole of the UK. So it's not just city-based. So you don't have to be the biggest contest in your city. London's a packed city with sport, so you're not just competing against all the sport in London. You get the fans all from the UK. I would still be a Dallas Cowboys fan if there was a UK franchise, but I would definitely go and watch the UK team and support them as well.
You may have just got a couple Packer fans giving you the finger right now, but
yeah, I thought
so. So how do you feel about starting with, let's say, Ravens, Tennessee?
Ravens, Tennessee is a good place for me to start. That's at the top of my notebook. I like that. All right, so the Titans versus the Ravens is a good place to start. I think I'm picking the Ravens in that one. So I think Lamar breaks his playoff duck. I've got the Titans defense not good enough. You can't have Houston hang that many points on you and be okay. And then the Ravens are just getting hot at the right time, and I think they've got it. I think they've got it in the bag, the Ravens. But I still think Derrick Henry will have a big game. I still back Derrick Henry to have a big game.
I agree with a lot of what you said, but I'm going with Tennessee just on the fact that I think they control the clock. And I think that they got good enough quarterback play with Tannehill, not great. Like, he's good. Don't get me wrong, not top tier, but he's good, and he's proved he's better than he was in Miami.
Yeah.
But I think for once, you're going to see a breakout game from their tight ends because of that Ravens has a softer middle than some of the teams they were playing, and I think ball control. But I would not be shocked if you're right and Lamar comes out and lights the world on fire and they end up winning. But I got Tennessee in a close game, probably less than 7 points.
I just think Lamar's got a lot more. He doesn't have as much pressure on his shoulders this year as he did last year because he's not going in as the number 1 seed, but he's also got a lot to prove to people. And I think after last year's defeat to Tennessee, I think that's what will get them over the edge. And I just think their run game's good enough to stop them from controlling the clock. And if they go behind, I feel a lot more confident in Lamar being able to take them back than if Tennessee go behind and Tannehill being able to bring Tennessee back.
I 100% agree with that the Ravens have a better chance of and a better team for coming back from behind. Also, if Lamar can hit a couple passes on the sidelines, it'll open things up. But that's where he struggles the most with his passing is on the sidelines. He's more accurate in the middle of the field. But I think it'll be a good game, and I think it's going to be an old-school NFL game where they hit you in the mouth.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited for that kind of thing, kind of like a rugby scrum kind of game, we would call it. We would call it over here in the UK, where it's just offensive lines versus defensive lines, who's going to dominate the other, with Lamar having a crazy running game. And I reckon he may hit a few of those throws down the sideline just because he'll be more focused in and with less pressure than last year. And obviously they got beat by Tennessee last year. So I think that'll carry them over the edge, the determination to win that game.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to come down to the players because both teams got great coaching. So you don't have to worry about the coach ruining or losing the game for you, which is an exciting game to watch because it's going to be who's on the field decides everything. Unlike Doug Peterson the other day, who let Washington walk in, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. Well, I figure let's just stay with the AFC. And what do you think about the Colts-Bills?
I think that's an easy win for the Bills. I think the Bills look on fire. I think Josh Allen is. Let's not be funny. Rodgers is going to get the MVP. Like Rodgers is going to win regular season MVP. I think Josh Allen has put his name in the hat by an incredible season. I think he's got the legs to run around. Colts defense is good, but did you see them against Miami? They were on fire, and that was with their second team. And Miami have a good defense as well. And then when you add to that Phillip Rivers is just an absolute liability, then I'm sorry, but I can't see the Bills losing that game.
No, I agree with you. I have the Bills. I do say if there's a trap game, it's this one, only because Phillip Rivers can get on fire, but I agree with you. He's more of a liability. I'm a big Jonathan Taylor fan, but I don't think he'll be able to put him on their back as a rookie. The Stephon Diggs trade was, I think Minnesota won it. But I don't think the Bills were a loser at all. I think they're a winner too. But if you're talking on the two, just because younger, cheaper player with more draft picks for the Vikings. But Diggs and Allen are on fire. And I agree with you. If you're just talking the conversation of MVP, then he's definitely in it. But if they give it to anybody but Rodgers, it's a robbery.
Yeah, definitely.
But I definitely think I definitely think Allen's one of the quarterbacks playing the best in the NFL right now with a big arm. Everybody was worried about his accuracy. He's still got a little bit of accuracy problems, but he's a lot better than people gave him credit for. He's learning the system real quick.
Yeah, it's the legs. Like you forget that he's an athletic quarterback. It's kind of like when Justin Herbert came into the league, everyone was talking about his arm talent, but then you see some of the plays that he makes and runs. And I just remember the Bills playing the Cowboys last Thanksgiving, and just Josh Allen just burst onto my screen, and I was like, all right, okay. He's going to be a great quarterback for a long time in the NFL, and I'm excited for the Bills. I've got them going quite far in this bracket this time around.
Yeah, I think they're going to give some people some troubles, and I think they're going to be the thorn in KC's side. But I guess we'll get to that when we get to it.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, and then we got the Browns and Steelers, and for me, this was a rough one. And I'll start out just by saying, last night before I went to bed, I was 100% in on the Browns. They were going to win this game. And then I woke up this morning and Kevin Stefanski is out with COVID. And I know there was a couple other coaches and they're tracing some players right now. They've played without players for COVID reasons already.
Yeah.
They have an amazing receiving core. Their tight ends are awesome. They got a great backfield, little sketchy on the offensive line. Defense is good. Myles Garrett tried to kill somebody with a helmet last year. But anyway, it's just, I was going to take the Browns, and then I went to the Steelers, and you and I were talking before we started recording.
Yeah.
And I've changed my mind again. I'm sticking with the Browns for the upset of the
I'm on the Browns all the way on this. I think the Steelers might be one of the most overrated teams I've seen. When you watch a team that's gone undefeated and then they come against one of the worst Cowboys teams and failing poor coaching from the Cowboys to lose 14-point deficit, to lose a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, the Pittsburgh struggled against the Cowboys. They struggled against Washington. And let's be real, they're two of the worst teams in the NFL. How can you say the Steelers are going to beat the Browns? Everybody's saying, oh, it was a close game. It's a close game. But last week on Sunday, it was a close game. And the Steelers were playing all of their backups. The Browns haven't been able to practice because the Browns didn't know they were playing that game until Sunday morning. So I don't know how you can use that either. As long as the Browns establish the run, they will win this game.
Oh yeah, and that two-headed monster with Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt coming out of the backfield reminds me a lot of, and I'm not comparing him on that level, but he reminds me a lot of like a Delvin Cook or a McCaffrey receiving the ball. Yeah. And running the ball, he's probably one of the better backups in the NFL you could have. So behind Chubb, and that running game is what I think could keep him in it. And Baker's a lot like, let's say, a Kirk Cousins, great off of play action, accurate at times with the ball. That's why I think Stefanski was such a big thing for Baker Mayfield. And I was really excited to watch this game. But now I'm like, without Stefanski, because I think he's a real reason for some of their success. Also, I think, as people are going to crush me, the subtraction of OBJ, I think, helped, where Baker's not, I got to get the ball to Beckham. I got to get the ball to Beckham. So now he's spreading it out without OBJ there, and Landry's a beast. So as long as the coaching doesn't fall off, I'm still okay with it. But part of the reason I picked the Browns was Kevin Stefanski, so it made me hedge my bet a little this morning.
Yeah, I just think if Stefanski gives his lads a call and says, run the ball, they will win this game. Baker coming off play action, wonderful. And then also, you've got to give the Browns a lot of credit for that win. They lost to the Jets, and then there's the pressure of, you haven't made the playoffs since 2002, and you screwed it up against the Jets. So if I was going into that game, I'm not sure I would be throwing the ball as cleanly. Now that pressure's all off. They've made the playoffs. That was their goal for the season. Go out and play your game. It's against a division rival. I just don't think the Steelers have got what it takes to move the ball much as they're going to need to.
And maybe I'm crazy, but I watch a lot of football, and it seems to me that Ben Roethlisberger's throwing motion is different since the elbow surgery.
Yeah, I just don't think he can throw the ball downfield as much as he wants to.
No, he's a Hall of Famer that doesn't look the same as he did 2 years ago. Yeah, but he's still playing well, and that team seems to play really well for Tomlin. But I don't think they're as talented as they were in years past. And I also think we might be in the minority because people still look at Cleveland as Cleveland.
Yeah, I just like the Browns in playoffs. I think they're going to be dangerous.
Yeah, I think they're starting to head the right way with their franchise finally.
Yeah, and I think Myles Garrett's going to have a big game as well. I think Myles Garrett's going to get after Big Ben because you can just say to him, shoot off. Ben's not running it anywhere. I just think
as long as he keeps Ben's helmet on.
Yeah. Apart from that.
Well, I guess we're going over to the NFC right now. And since it's the first one up on my computer, let's go with the Chargers Seahawks. Rams Seahawks. That Rams, new logo Seahawks. With that ram horn reminds me of a C. Yeah,
and I think this game is too close to call. I don't want to go too in on this one. I've got the Rams to win it. I think the Seahawks again are slightly overrated when it comes to their offense. I think their defense has shown some holes this season. The Rams have arguably the best secondary in the league. And I think they have enough to keep it down to enough points where Goff's simple dump it off play works out for them.
Yeah, also, I don't disagree with any of that. Another game where I think both coaches are good.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll's smart enough where he's not going to show the defense before 15 seconds because if you watch a lot of times, I swear to you that McVay's in Goff's ear telling him what's going on before the 15 seconds. I think that's why they got beat up in the Super Bowl because Belichick's like, we're not going to show till that headset's off on the defense. But, and a lot of Packer fans are probably going to tell me to fuck myself right now, but I'm going with the Seahawks. Yeah. And I'm being honest, the only reason I'm going with the Seahawks is because I'm a big Russell Wilson fan and I'm a Badger fan. So as Packer fans tell me to fuck myself, it's nothing beyond them because I agree with you. Close game. I was having a hard time choosing who was going to win this game. The LA's probably a better team all around, but Russell Wilson's a better quarterback. And I was going back and forth. So I said, my Badger pride, I'm going with the Seahawks.
Yeah, I haven't liked to bet against Russell Wilson all season. I think he's an amazing quarterback. I think I just think he's an incredible quarterback. Changed the way that the quarterback position was played in a lot of ways. Opened the door for quarterbacks like Dak to quarterback the Cowboys and stuff. I just think the Rams secondary just has enough. Stick Ramsey on DK Metcalf and then go from there.
I don't disagree with you. Like I said, it's just the Badger in me going with Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
All right, then we got the Bears Saints, and I'm going to make this just completely simple. I think the Bears get walked in this game. I think the Saints beat them by 14 or more. I don't even think Drew Brees has to play his best game to beat the Bears, and it's not because of that Bears defense. It's because I got zero faith in Mitch Trubisky, and like I was calling him on Sunday, was check down Trubisky, and I think he cost them points against the Packers.
Yeah.
Plus, he throws interceptions or close to interceptions at the absolute worst times of any game.
I think the Bears got shown up as frauds against the Packers. I can't believe that they're in the playoffs and the Cardinals didn't make it. I would have loved to see Murray in the playoffs. That would have been a lot of fun. Mitchell Trubisky is just not good enough. They need to find a quarterback and soon. The Saints can attack how they want. The Saints can do anything they want at the minute. And if I was the coach of the Saints, I would say get Breeze's feet warm, get him ready to go, get ahead, and then for the fourth quarter, put in Taysom Hill and just finish off the game from there. Just put the game on ice early and just go from there.
And that way that Saints defense is playing for the first time that I can remember, it's the defense is actually better than their offense.
Yeah.
And that defense is playing.
Front.
And Alvin Kamara made the Vikings defense look horrible, putting up 6 touchdowns. But as a guy who only gets 17, 18 carries a game, he really dominates with those 17, 18 carries he gets.
Yeah.
And he's huge impact. And they got one of the best receivers in football, even though this year's been a little off with numbers because of injury and then Breeze. But I don't see how the Bears even stay close.
It's got to be through their defense. They've got to find a way to stop them, and I just don't think they can. And
I think they're going to get out-coached.
Yeah, I think Trubisky's not good enough to make up for the fact that the defense is going to get outplayed. You can bring in Nick Foles as a gunslinger and see what happens, but then you just getting really blown out if you.
And the Bears have decent tight end in Komet and Robinson. If you look at where he's been, he catches like 1,000 yards wherever he goes with awful quarterbacks. They got a good running game. It's just that quarterback play. And it's got to be Nagy because no matter who he puts back there, besides that one game, I remember he had to put in Chase Daniels a couple years ago against the Vikings. I haven't seen that offense be able, in spurts once in a while, but a lot of times if you look, even when they move the ball, it's more motion and gimmick plays than it is Trubisky's play or somebody else's.
Yeah, they're not good enough. The Saints are going to win that one.
I think Nagy's going to get fired after they get smoked by the Saints.
Big call.
I know a lot of Bears fans want him out, so I don't think they'd be too sad to see him go. I think a lot of Packers, Vikings, and Detroit fans are like, no, keep him, But
keep them down.
Well, and then
Yeah,
here's the one game. If you go to Tampa Bay and then the football team, which I absolutely love, a team has no name. Like,
yeah,
Tampa should win this game hands down without a problem. But Tampa is one of those teams where I could see them going to the Super Bowl, or I could see them flopping in the first round of the playoffs just because which Tampa team did we see this year? Does it show up? Towards the end of the year, though, it looks like Brady and them are all getting it together. They have
yeah,
maybe the best receiving room in football if you go 1 through 4 deep. Tight end play, you can't argue there. Running game is suspect at times, but they seem to be giving Brady enough time where he's not dying either. And the defense is pretty good. I think Bruce Arians actually gets in the way sometimes in Tampa.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Arians getting in the way. I like his, what does he call it? Risk it, no biscuit, or something.
Yes,
yeah, something like that. I like that idea against most of the teams in the NFL, but I think Washington. I think I have got written down in my notes here that Brady will just defy Arians and just get the ball out of his hands quickly, and then they win this game. Like that's all.
I see. If he does that, I'm with you. That's where I think Arians gets in the way. Is Brady's not the hold the ball, get it down the field quarterback like Big Ben or Peyton Manning or even Carson Palmer. Where at the beginning of the year it seemed like Arians wanted him to be that, but it seems like Leftwich was like the middleman going, Bruce, we got to let him do what he does. Yeah. And Brady's that guy, quick, out of your hand, give it to those playmakers and let them get the yards after the catch.
Yeah, and now they're winning football games. I think Arians will say, cool, that's the way we'll run it. Drop downs to AB and then go deep with Evans and Godwin for the rest of the game and see what, so before Sunday, I was thinking if Washington, I didn't think Washington would be the Eagles. Once again, I said I'm a Cowboys fan. And whoever was going to win the NFC least, I thought Washington would have the best chance of beating the Bucs because of their pass rush. Washington shouldn't even be there.
Well, no, I agree. So here's the question.
Awful.
So let's say a miracle happens, just a miracle, just for argument's sake, and Washington wins the Super Bowl. Does Doug Peterson get a ring? Because I don't know what the fuck happened on that game, but he intentionally lost that game, and I swear it was for draft pick. You know?
Yeah, I think Doug Peterson gets a ring.
Went after him. There's rumors his players went after him after the game.
I think Doug Peters gets a ring from the owner of the Eagles and gets told to pack his bags and leave before.
Okay.
I can't, unless the owner was in on it. They've gone from the 9th draft pick to the 6th draft pick, and it's just stupid. I would have understood if the Cowboys won that early game, because the Eagles hate us, man. They hate us. I would have understood that, but once we lost, I thought you may as well. And to take out Hurts when he's been playing well, and that would have been a big win for him. And to take him out and then put in, I can't even remember the name of the guy that they put in. I was nicely tucked up in bed after the Cowboys lost, so there was no point in me watching that game anymore. I just watched the highlights. But anyway, back to the teams that are in the playoffs and the teams that didn't ruin the integrity of the NFL. I think that although the Washington's pass rush will get after Brady, and did you hear after the game Young saying, "I want Brady, I want Brady"?
No, but that kid's a beast, and I wouldn't want no part of him. So
I think that's big talk from a rookie to go after Tom Brady, but I think they'll get after him. But I just don't see a win. Brady with 40 touchdowns in a new system. Like everybody says that they've been playing badly, but Brady is tied for the second most touchdowns in the NFL. Like he's got 40 touchdowns. I think they've got too much. I've got the Bucs to go. I've got the Bucs to cause a lot of problems in the playoffs. I think they're ready. I think they're ready to go. I think Washington are terrible. Smith can't move the ball. Great story, amazing story with Ron Rivera getting treated for cancer and Alex Smith coming back from his injury, but he can't. Every time he throws the ball, he's protecting his right leg, and you just wince and you think, is he going to be hurt again? And I can't see it. I can't see him playing there next season. They need a quarterback who can actually throw the ball.
part of what made Alex Smith a pretty good quarterback too, because he's had a rough road through his career. First overall, Rodgers is way better, that kind of thing. His little rough road, but he hasn't played awful. It's just he gets compared to this number 1 overall pick. But he's been a pretty good quarterback in the NFL. But if you watch him now, part of what made him really good was he would move around, he would scramble, he'd get outside the pocket. Doesn't seem like he can do that after that. Oh, what did he have? 12, 18 surgeries in a couple weeks on that leg.
Yeah, well, he nearly died.
Right.
Amazing story. Comeback player of the year, even if he didn't win the division, even if he just played one game, he was easily going to win comeback player of the year. But I'm sorry, Washington need to find a new QB before they can convince me that they're going to beat a team like Tampa Bay.
That's the next question too, since I got you here and we went through all those teams. Like, what does a team like Washington do? I don't know, because they're actually going to be drafting after teams with better records than them just for making the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's like you're in no man's land, and do you take Wilson if he's still there? And that's if he's still there. And then I'm a big fan of Trey Lance, but this kid only played 1 year of college, even though he won a national championship Division II with throwing 0 interceptions, which is impressive. Yeah. I don't care what level you're on. But do you take a kid from Division II who only played 1 game that high also? And if you do, then you're going to keep Alex Smith as my guess, so that whoever comes in can learn under him, because who's a better pro than Smith to learn under. But I don't know what they would do, because they're in no man's land.
Or do Washington call the New York Jets, who need a total rebuild and have a good quarterback in Sam Darnold? Do they call the New York Jets and say, here's all of our draft picks and pick Justin Fields? I can see a team like that going to the Jets and saying, look, here's everything. Because I do think Washington, with that defense and Ron Rivera as their coach, are ready to get into the playoffs season after season if they have a decent quarterback. And having college football is impossible to watch over here, but I do watch the highlights, and watching Justin Fields, he is a good enough quarterback to play in the NFL. And if you give them all your draft picks.
I don't have a problem with that. I thought at first you were going to say trade for Sam Darnold, and I'm not a Darnold guy. I don't think he's as good as everybody else. But if they moved up, I agree. Also, I'm not convinced that Jacksonville doesn't take Fields themselves. I know everybody's convinced they're going to take Trevor Lawrence, but I watch a ton of college football, and both those guys can ball out, so I'm not trying to say I'm some scout. But if you listen to a lot of guys in the NFL, they're talking how Fields, even since Elite 11, is better than Trevor Lawrence, and nobody thought Mayfield was going to go first, right? So I wouldn't be shocked either way, but I think even if you move up to 2, you're set if you're willing to take Fields or Trevor Lawrence. I think it's a win-win either way.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Way better deal than when they moved up for RG3.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. It would take a big move to say, we're not drafting any players this year. We're going to give the Jets all of our draft picks. And it would make sense for the Jets, because Sam Darnold, like you say, you're not the biggest Sam Darnold fan. Sam Darnold is good enough for the Jets to say, right, we'll keep him and then build a team around him with all of this draft capital. But obviously then you're skipping on Justin Fields, and if Justin Fields becomes good, then you lose your job.
But now if you're the Jets and you look at it too, do you look at it and go, Sam Darnold's better than what he looked? It was Adam Gase. Because if you look at when Tannehill played for him in Miami.
Exactly.
So I don't know. Now he's in New England already. He got a job with the Patriots, but I think that it might be coaching. It might be the quarterback. Like I said, I'm not sold. It might just be the Jets organization has been inept since Rex Ryan, right? So
yeah, I've heard some chatter on the NFL shows that we watch. So what do we get over here? NBC Football Talk with Mike Florio and Chris Sims. That's the show that we get on Sky.
I like Chris Sims. Florio's an idiot, but yeah.
Yeah, Florio's an idiot, but I like Chris Sims as well. And there's just a little bit of chat saying, should the Jets, in that second pick, should the Jets trade down, build up their whole franchise around Sam Darnold, which I don't think they should. I don't think they will. I think they should. And a team like Washington should be willing to give up all of their draft picks to pick second overall.
Yeah, I guess it's how much of a franchise player do you think the quarterback you can get if you move up is?
Yeah.
Or if you're the Jets, do you think Fields say is franchise changing, then you take him. But if you don't, then stock up on draft picks and build that team around whoever's playing quarterback, because we've seen before Eli Manning's got 2 rings. You cannot tell me that people really believe Eli Manning is a top 10 elite, quarterback,
yeah, exactly.
But he's going to make the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Because
honestly,
they put the right teams around him and they got hot at the right time. And
yeah, and Sam Darnold, I think, is a good enough quarterback. When you've watched the games that they've won this season, it's been Sam Darnold balling out. And I just remember watching him play against the Cowboys just after getting mono when he beat us last season, and that you were just sat there thinking, like, how are the Jets losing this much with this guy? Like, I just don't.
Yeah, he just scared me coming out of USC because he was an interception machine.
Yeah. Well, that could be the problem. That could be the problem with him. But if you get him some weapons, then he doesn't have to push it down the field as much. You can get some weapons for him. He's not getting hit from all over due to a terrible offensive line.
Well, then,
yeah.
Let me ask you same question for the Bears. What the hell do you do if you're the Bears? A quarterback is your problem, right? So do you look for like a Jameis Winston? Do you look for like somebody that's going to be out in a free agency and then go after a young guy? And I don't know if Jameis Winston's the answer or not, but under Bruce Arians, he threw a ton of interceptions and touchdowns. But I think a year with Sean Payton, maybe he learned how to protect that ball more, and the kid's got talent. He just makes dumb mistakes. So do you take a risk on somebody like him, or like, if you're the Bears, again, you're in no man's land drafting in bad spots too.
Yeah, I think if you evaluate Jameis Winston and you think that he's stopped throwing interceptions, then he's the quarterback for the Bears.
Looks like Teddy Bridgewater might be free too.
Yeah.
There's rumors that they're going to take Trey Lance and cut Bridgewater, which I think would be crazy to not keep them both, even if you went after him. Bridgewater's a pro's pro. He might not be the best quarterback in the world, but he is definitely a pro who will teach you the right way to film study, show up, that kind of stuff,
Yeah, well, that's if Trey Lance is still there. What if Miami decide that Tua isn't the guy, and then they decide to pick him 3rd overall and stuff like that?
This is why I love the NFL draft.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite times. It's one of my favorite times of year, the NFL draft. I absolutely love it.
I'm so ridiculous that I take off work and shut off my phone for 3 days. And my wife and kid already know, like, just feed him and leave him alone.
We don't. So obviously the NFL draft is at like 1 a.m. for us. So I don't watch it live. I just like keeping up with all the stories and stuff. It is difficult to know who's good coming out of college. That's the issue. I like to say, oh, this pro's a risk, this pro's a risk, this pro's a risk. Maybe they'll get a college guy in. Like, I don't know anything about good offensive linemen. Like, I don't know anything about that. But I just think if Jameis Winston is the guy, is throwing those yards, and it's because of Bruce Arians that he's throwing interceptions, then the Bears should take him. And Matt Nagy may want to have a look at someone like Cam Newton. Like, I know Cam Newton's had a good season, but if he's wanting to go for a running offense, then Cam Newton might be the guy to bring in. Or if Tyrod Taylor at the LA Chargers, now that Justin Herbert's the guy, what does Tyrod Taylor do?
I forgot about Tyrod Taylor. That's a good option also. And also, if Nagy's still there, I don't know why you don't do that running offense with Trubisky who can move. Why you don't have more RPOs and, set up runs for a kid who can move that way. I don't know if Nagy's the guy, and I almost feel like Nagy got the job because he had a cup of coffee with Andy Reid. You know what I mean? Like, I know they felt that about LaFleur and McVay in Green Bay, but LaFleur proved he can coach, even though a lot of people in my area call him the 13-year-old boy because he looks like he's 13. But, like, I think LaFleur proved he can coach, that it wasn't just knowing somebody. I still feel like Nagy got that job just because of Andy Reid.
Yeah, definitely. But that happens a lot in the NFL. That like Bill Belichick's coaching tree, like what have they done since?
Yeah, besides looking over in Tennessee right now, there's not a lot of good stuff. And
Tennessee.
And that's more of Vrabel being a player for him. I know he coached for him too, but Vrabel was a player, so he understands the game at a whole different level than some of those coaches. But you're right, Matt Patricia. I think Josh McDaniels got the short end of the stick in Denver, but Still, he didn't do much. You got Romeo Cornell, like all these guys, Mangini. Yeah, they all looked great under Belichick and then fell off as soon as they got on their own.
Yeah, exactly. That's, that happens a lot in the NFL.
Since we're just rambling about football, with all the salary cap probably going down to 175 million, teams losing around 22, 23 million. So you're going to see some guys out in free agency, right? Well, I'm just reading the Patriots are set to have like 70 million in cap space. So once again, the Patriots are going to be able to rebuild because of COVID and get good real quick again.
Yeah, I think Matt Stafford leaves Detroit and goes to the Patriots. Is my
I told you I think he ends up with your Cowboys, but that's just me.
Yeah. I just can't see a way out of for Jerry Jones, who's so into marketing and stuff like that. I think not signing Dak is profile suicide, and I think just after everything that Dak's gone through, and so I think they'll sign him. I don't think they should sign him for anything more than 35 mil. Let's say.
Well, that's the question. Even with the cap going down, and it's looking that he's asking for 40 plus. How do you? And I know there's ways to manipulate the cap. Like if you look in Green Bay, Ingles does it. Minnesota's got a miracle worker in Brzezinski who works that cap numbers.
Yeah.
But how do you pay a guy 40 million when you're going into an unknown season, and then we don't even know what the numbers look like in 2022? And that TV money that signed in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't actually kick in till 23.
Yeah, I don't understand how they do it. I have full trust in Jerry Jones finding a way to manipulate the cap space. As we were talking about before we started this recording, Jerry Jones is one of those owners that can do whatever he likes. So I think he'll find a way to make it. He'll find a way to make it work for him and Dak. I don't think
I'm not, like I said, I told you before, like I'm not a huge Dak fan, but I'm not a Dak hater. Where my problem comes in with Dak is the size of the contract,
the money,
right?
Yeah.
Because like I think him and Kirk Cousins are very comparable of quarterbacks and how they play. And I think both of them are right in that top 10-ish range, but they're not elite. And at times they seem elite and at times they seem below average. But they're both really good, but I don't know if they're worth those high price tags. But that's just the quarterback market now. And to me, this might sound crazy, but it almost seems like quarterback money is getting so big that at some point they're going to have a separate salary cap just for the quarterbacks.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, look at Watson and Mahomes' money, though. How do you keep up with a guy at some point is going to make 50-some million a year?
Yeah, I don't. I just think it's kind of the salary cap will go up again. So they'll take these two down times, and then they'll just keep going up and up from there. So it should be like, hey, it should be fine. They'll find a way. They'll find a way to get their players paid.
I don't care what the salary cap is, unless you're Aaron Rodgers or Mahomes. I'm not really okay with giving you 45 million.
Hey,
but
yeah, I don't think Dak Prescott is not good enough to take 45 million. Dak Prescott is not good enough.
Without a salary cap, right, in sports, LeBron James is worth 50 million a year just on endorsements, and everything. But a guy like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Brady in his prime, without a salary cap, they could have asked for anything they wanted because they're the majority of that team. They make it. We've watched the Packers win with nobody, around Rodgers. But not most quarterbacks are like that. But yet the NFL still keeps paying them that money. So we're going to have a quarterback money issue at some point for almost every team.
Yeah, definitely. I don't see how they can keep going up with it. I think Dak is being stubborn because which he is within his right to, just because he hasn't been paid and everybody else has been paid. But I think if you put Dak on the free agency and any other team went to go get him for 35, he would say yes. So what about Dak to the Bears?
Well,
he's asking for too much money.
If I'm the Bears and I can figure it out, I'm going to try to do it.
I'd say that's
I'm going to try. But my thing is for Dak, get your money. That's not what I'm saying. Get every dime you can get if you're an NFL player because, like they say, the NFL stands for not for long, right?
Not for long.
Average career is under 4 years. We watched Alex Smith's leg. In like one hit, your career can be over. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater's knee almost fell off in practice, Yeah. So get your money. But if I'm looking at it from the team perspective, which is most what us fans do, is we come from the team because we're like, fuck you, help our team, not yourself. But if I'm Dak, I'm getting every dollar. But I think on the open market, Dak easily gets 40.
Yeah, I think there's teams that would give Dak 40. I think the Cowboys have enough weapons that they can put a different quarterback in there and uh take it away from there. I don't know what quarterback. I would prefer Dak to stay. I think I would like some stability at the Cowboys for a bit and build up the defense maybe through draft picks.
Well, a lot of Packer fans are going to tell me I'm wrong because they hate his play calling, but I think you got a good coach in Mike McCarthy. And
I can't. Oh.
I think that he's good for those young quarterbacks. I think he'll be good for the offense. The team was in such disarray to begin with Coach Clapp leaving and Jerry Jones and Dak Prescott situation. COVID hit. You didn't get a full offseason. Then, you know what I mean? And then Dak gets hurt. I think it hurt a lot of teams like the Vikings, speaking of NFC North. I think the not having the offseason really hurt their defense because if you look at Gladney and Dantzler playing corner now, they're playing great. But at the beginning of the year, these are college kids that still didn't know what the fuck they were doing with no offseason. You know, so I think that hurt a lot of teams that way.
I would take there are a few things that you can see that Mike McCarthy's done this season that has cost us a place in the playoffs. We are a terrible team. We would get beat by the Tampa Bay Bucks. That's not down to Mike McCarthy. That's down to Dak Prescott getting injured. None of our free agents working on defense this season. And just COVID in general, meaning that we can't, Mike McCarthy couldn't get his stuff in. Mike Nolan couldn't sort his defense out in preseason. So it's only just getting sorted out now. But even if you look at Sunday's game, not taking 2 points when they were 5 points behind, they just took the extra point. If they went for 2, they would have been in the same place as they were if they went for 1. No, if they went for 2, they would have only needed a field goal to tie. But because they went for 1, they needed a touchdown to win it. Stupid call. And then the 50-yard field goal should have actually been a 60-yard field goal if it wasn't for Mike McCarthy, or I think Skip Bayless, who is another idiot, calls him like Coach Snooze or something like that. Coach Snooze. If he actually looked at the screen and said, that ball hit the ground, that's a 60-yard field goal. We march down the field, take the chip kick, and the Eagles still tank against Washington, but we feel a bit better about ourselves.
Yeah, because analytics definitely has a place in football, but analytics do too. But that's a point. You're right. They should have went for the 2 because you don't hurt yourself if you miss it, but you help yourself if you make it. And I very rarely ever agree with Skip Bayless, but I like to watch Shannon laugh at him.
Yeah.
The only thing is, granted, he's over the top. The only time he's not ridiculous, it seems it's about the Cowboys because it's so heartfelt, right? Because when he talks about LeBron, it's like, shut up, dude. You know? And Brady's great, but it's almost like if Skip talks about him, you don't want to hear it anymore. So the only time
purposefully
he's honest,
over the top.
Right. The only time he's honest is about the Cowboys.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I only watch his stuff about the Cowboys. The rest of it, I'm like, I can't listen to that, I'm afraid.
See, and I really like Shannon Sharp, but Skip gets on my nerves, so it's that hit or miss. But I'm more of a Pat McAfee guy. I want to watch
I just watched loads of the Pat McAfee show today, and I loved him when he played for the Colts as a punter. He was great.
Well, today's the best day to watch it because it's Aaron Rodgers Tuesday, right? And before the Aaron Rodgers Tuesday, as somebody who's lived in Green Bay and I'm from Wisconsin, I've heard a lot of stories about Rodgers being an asshole and Rodgers not being a good guy. And then you've seen Donald Driver and Jennings take shots at him on the way out the door. But watching him on there, I don't think Rodgers actually gets portrayed correctly. And it seems like I might have been wrong about him being an asshole. Like me and you talked, he's got the perfect level of asshole where he's not over the top where you can't stand him. But it's enough asshole because he's cocky a little, but he should be. He's one of the best to ever do it, right? So I think Pat McAfee's done a great job of humanizing him for people like me who were like, this dude's just a dick.
Yeah, Pat McAfee's stuff is good. I like Pat McAfee. Yeah, I think he was a great punter as well.
Yeah, that's why I watch mostly Pat McAfee, and then I go back and forward through all the other shows and watch what you want. Like, I'll watch some NFL live, but if they get off on some crazy stuff, it's already been done. I can just fast forward it, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming on, Matty. It was great. And if you got time, maybe we can do it again after round one. We'll see how both of our schedules meet up.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
also, once again, before you leave, let everybody know your podcast and website again.
Yeah, great. So that's the Travel Story Society podcast. If you want to hear us talk about some travel stories, if any of you guys have any travel stories, get in contact with us as well. And it's www.travelstorysociety.com. All of our contact information's on there. So if you have any travel stories you want to tell, whether that's in blog form or you want to be a guest on our podcast, please do give us an email from there. We'll love to have you on.
Yeah, and just a thought, maybe someday you'll have to make a trip to all the most historic NFL stadiums and then do a pod on that.
Yeah, I think my dream is to actually watch the Dallas Cowboys in Arlington, Texas. I can't, that is one of my dream trips, and that will be happening soon, hopefully.
So if you do plan a trip like that, are you going to try to plan it around who they play, or are you just going to take it as you can get it?
Take it as I can get it, but there is a weekend where Dallas play at home in Arlington, and the F1, so the Formula One Grand Prix, is in Texas as well. So there's a weekend where they correspond, and I would love to go. I would love to go to the F1 and then go down the road and watch the Cowboys on.
That's another weird thing about the UK to the US, right? Because I'm not a big racing guy, but I'll check it out once in a while. But in the US, it's NASCAR, right? Worldwide, it's Formula One. It's just a weird thing. In the US, we're almost oh, you guys like that, we're going the other way.
Yeah, definitely. That's basically how we see you guys. But the weird thing is the Europeans see us in exactly the same way.
Okay.
So we're kind of that middleman between you guys. Yeah. So you have obviously I just think F1 is so steeped in British tradition and you have Lewis Hamilton driving at the moment, who's I think he's 7-time world champion now, going for the Schumacher record. It's a good time to be a Brit in F1.
Well, there you go. You can plan a trip around both of them and get a podcast out of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, you head down. Hopefully it'll correspond with the Cowboys playing the Vikings, and then we'll film a podcast at the tailgate in Arlington, Texas. How about that?
Yeah, I was hoping this year, but I didn't get to do it because of COVID, to go down and do some out of Lambeau Field and out of US Bank Stadium. And then if I could get up to Chicago, because I have family there, it would have been nice out of Soldier Field too. Detroit would have been the one that was a little rough for me. But if I could have got to 3 of the stadiums with the NFL North page, it would have been great,
Yeah, that would be really cool. We'll just do it next season, man. COVID
there
will be
you
over
go.
Soon. We'll be fine.
Well, I appreciate you giving us your time. And everybody else, thanks for watching. I'm Jay, that's Matty. And remember, you guys, take care of each other. And now that NFC North has gone global, it's truly one world, one love. Deuces. This guy's a fucking idiot.